How's it going, dudes? So you're one of those real gamers, constantly on the bleeding edge of the gaming world. You've grown tired of the conventional ways of enjoying video games. But luckily for you, with the future comes innovation, and now there is a brand new way for you to play your favorite video games in a way you've never experienced them before. Worse, video game board games are a very perplexing product line because they are basically competing against the very object they're based on. Should I buy this cool video game or its board game counterpart rings the same feel as should I eat this pasta linguine with a fork or drink it through a straw. But they aren't pointless. Fans of these titles might get a kick out of seeing their favorite series represented in a brand new way. So let's go through the surprisingly extensive world of video game board games to see the best, worst, and weirdest options on the market. Starting off with games from the modern age, let's look at one of the most talked about series in the space right now. I never said what they were saying was good. Borderlands Tiny Tina's Robot Tea Party. Borderlands TTRTP sees players attempt to take their Claptrap model and outfit him with the right parts to match his main theme. Players can add parts to their own or an opponent's model to sabotage, and can play action cards to help give them an edge. The first player to complete their Claptrap wins. This game is extremely simple and is meant to be a title that you can just pick up and go, with easy rules and a short playtime. As a result, it falls prey to the simple game negatives. It's not very deep and can get locked into a spot where you keep drawing until you get a specific card that you need. But if you need to distract a couple Borderlands fans, it could be a good filler game. That's really all I have time to say on that bad boy. For one, there's not really a lot to talk about, and for two, we've got a lot to cover. Fallout. The Fallout board game sees players venture into various stories as they travel a wasteland, exploring, fighting, and building up their character. As the game progresses, players will attempt to complete their agendas to earn influence in the wasteland, and the game ends once one player earns the right amount of influence or if one of the game's factions gains enough power to take control. This game is violently complicated. The mechanics are so deep that not only does the game work as a single player experience, but the players say that it works best as a single player experience. When you play Fallout, you will be running around a specific storyline as the game progresses. As the story runs, in the background, random encounters and hidden agendas will spice up the gameplay, with mechanics like radiation, leveling up, VATS combat, special traits, perks, enemies, items, companions, and other things carried over from the game. This game has had a ton of thought and effort poured into it to bring the feel of the games to the table. And I would hope so, because this darn thing is actually more expensive than Fallout 4 was on launch. Not to make assumptions, I think you might get more bang for your buck with the original. But since Fallout is a single player game, this might be your best option for roaming the wasteland with your friends. At least, if you're looking to do it without being shaken down for every penny along the way. Speaking of microtransactions, Six Siege, the board game, sees Ubisoft try to take the high-speed tactical team first-person shooter and somehow turn it into a functional board game. Players pick their 5 operatives, then try to complete their team's objective to win. Look at this video game. How did somebody look at this and go, yes, this, but on a table? What would a good board game version of this style of game even look like? Well, I've got an example for you. It's this one, because apparently this game is absolutely amazing. From what I've seen, they managed to take mechanics like line of sight, destructible environments, crouching and leaning, different specialist roles, team movement, and an in-game round timer that uses an app, and mash all of that together into what some people are claiming to be one of the best board games in the genre. The components are also really high quality, so when you put together great gameplay, great balance, and great components, how does that turn into 381 1 out of 10 reviews on BoardGameGeek? The answer? Remorselessly screwing over your players. See, this game wasn't made by Ubisoft. Instead, a company called Mythic Games acquired the rights from Ubisoft to crowdfund the game on Kickstarter. And after raising over $1 million, more than 10 times their set goal, they got to work putting it together. Some time goes by and Hey guys, quick update. The game is getting there. Everything is looking cool, looking good. Small problem, we need more money. I know that we raised 10 times the amount we needed, but the war has almost doubled the cost of cardboard. And when you do the math, you know, that's like all the money gone. But we've got a solution. You fine fellows simply need to pledge again based on your original pledge level. For instance, if you gave us $269 the first time, you just need to pledge another $129 and you'll be back in the action. Also, if you don't want to pay this, that's fine. You just aren't going to get the game that you've already paid for. Also, I know that you guys already paid for shipping, but you will need to pay for shipping again because we said so. But if you don't want in on this hot action, that's fine too. We have an in-depth and highly functional refund process that you can, yeah, you're not getting a refund. That's our latest update. Be sure to follow us on social media and we'll see you next time! Yeah, seeing as the backers were basically having the game they paid for be held for ransom, they didn't have the nicest things to say about the company, which is where all the negative reviews came from, as many people understandably thought that this entire game was a massive scam. Alright, I spent way too much time on the Siege debacle, so let's up the pace on these a little bit so I can get to the real wonky stuff. Guilty Gear Strive. Oh, never mind, we're already here. Guilty Gear Strive, the board game, sees players select their favorite Guilty Gear character and duke it out with their opponent in a 1v1 bout. Players use cards to gain force and attack their opponent. Whoever drops the opponent's life to 0 wins. The general consensus is that the game is really good at transferring the gameplay of Guilty Gear into a board game, with each character coming with their own deck of moves tailored to their playstyle and a fast-paced combat card mechanic that rewards predicting your opponent's moves. It does this by using the Exceed fighting system style of gameplay, so if you're a fan of those titles, you should have fun here. However, some have taken issue with the game's components, with particular ires toward the cards using screenshotted depictions of the moves that can be dark and blurry, and the box being unreasonably huge for what's included. Speaking from experience, yeah, that can get pretty annoying. Build a farm and fish for fish in Stardew Valley. I watched my friend play once. I have no idea what that game's about. Stardew Valley the board game is a cooperative game. Oh, if I'm not at my friend's throat, it's not game night, buddy. Where players work together to try to restore the community center and achieve your grandpa's goals before you run out of time. Players will divvy up tasks like farming, fishing, and exploring, all while gaining new skills and meeting new people. Once the seasons are over, everyone either wins or loses depending on if the tasks have been completed. This title has earned praise from both fans of the game and newcomers, with strengths including how much it feels like playing the actual game, how the seasonal events shake up the game and keep it interesting, and how surprisingly challenging the game can be. But some are less welcoming, saying that with most of the actions being determined by dice rolls, it feels like you are never truly in control of how well you are doing, making the gameplay frustrating. Everyone agrees that this is a great representation of Stardew Valley, it just depends on whether you think it's a good board game at the end of the day. Slay the Spire. Oh, come on now, this is cheating. The game is literally a deck builder. It's practically already a board game. I'm not even gonna cover this one, because there is really only one thing that I need to report here. 8.8 average rating on Board Game Geek on 2,700 ratings. I have never seen a score this high. When I look at game scores, half the time I think the people on this site just hate board games. That should tell you everything you need to know about this one. Some people are even claiming that the physical version might be better than the video game it's based on, which 1 is absolutely insane, and 2, yeah, it better be if they're charging $115 for it. That is not only 4 times more than the video game, but also is enough money to buy 5.47 copies of Save Penguins. And I'm not one to tell you how to spend your money, but Kowalski with a hat. Minecraft Portal Rush. Before you get your hopes up, Herobrine is not a boss in this game, 0 out of 10. MPR is another cooperative game, where you and your teammates try to work together to fight off mobs and escape the Nether. Mine, fight, and move, and if you can fix the portal to escape, you win the game. Portal Rush's standout feature is the Resource Cube, a cube comprised of blocks that you can mine from throughout the game. Mining from the resource block nets you certain benefits depending on the color, and in addition, you will need to give a certain amount of blocks to the piglins in order to receive the obsidian that you need to repair the portal. But be careful, as each turn a block is removed from the cube, and if the cube runs out, you lose the game. So not only is this your main resource block, it is also your game timer. Oh, we're just merging all kinds of crap now. New from Monopoly, the board now doubles as the dice. Jokes aside, this is a really cool idea, and the game is chock full of stellar ideas that really get you invested in the race to get out of this nightmare. So just like most of the other modern video game board games we've looked at, this one is another good title. Confound it, we've seen nothing but winner after winner here. I went into this expecting some truly baffling products, but other than how to run an effective Kickstarter, it seems like everyone has figured out how to make a good video game board game. So instead of looking at the new releases, what if we went back to a time when the formula wasn't set in stone? Ladies and gentlemen, let's go back to the Wild West of video game board games and look at some of the classics that shaped the landscape. It's Frogger! Yes, let's see some whack crap, baby! Woo! 1981's Frogger is a duel between two players as they try to make it to the other side of the board while avoiding the hazards that could squish their frog. On your turn, roll the dice and move your frogs and obstacles to take the advantage. First player to get 3 frogs across wins. We are looking live at a dueling version of Frogger, a 1v1 bout in the most ancient of forms. This is the type of contest that determines a war. The main gripe that people have about the Frogger board game is just how dull it is. Crazy how slowly moving a frog back and forth could possibly grow tiresome, I know. Although it being pretty simple to pick up could make it a good game for kids that enjoy the video game. But seeing as the game is 43 years old now, those might be in short supply. Donkey Kong from 1981. Oh, what is going on this box? What happened to Mario? He looks like he's about to shrivel into nothing. Pauline looks slightly inconvenienced at most, and can you battle Donkey Kong and save the fair maiden? With these demons running around, that's all you, bud. Donkey Kong sees 2 to 4 players try to make it to the top of the structure to rescue Pauline, all while jumping over or hammering barrels that Kong sends down to score points. The game ends once Pauline is rescued, and the player with the most points wins. I still can't get over how disgusting this Mario is. He looks like a pickle that was left out in the sun. Movement in Donkey Kong is determined by the dice. One die is rolled for your Mario to move, and the other is rolled to move the barrels or fireballs around. If one of these obstacles is coming at you, you'll need to play a card to avoid it, which you can get by landing on a red dot and will earn you points once they're used. One cool part about this game is that your total points are kept secret from the other players, so unless they've remembered how many you have, they could end up rescuing Pauline for your victory. The only other noteworthy part is that Donkey Kong is massive, which is on purpose, as you can load the barrels into his arm and drop them on the board, which is a cool touch. Sonic the Hedgehog game. In Sonic the Hedgehog game, you take control of the blue blur as you try to maneuver through the stages to stop the evil Dr. Robotnik. Along the way, you can spin dash and fight badniks while enjoying the special stages for more rings. Whoever has the most rings when Robotnik is defeated wins. What's crazy about this game is that all players take turns moving the same Sonic the Hedgehog token. So you're basically playing a game where the person you are trying to beat is yourself. Sonic fighting his inner demons. Which one will come out on top? If you want to win this game, you need to be the player to reach the special stages. There are so many rings to be grabbed there, and if you let the other players take them, you will be left in the dust. Also, wow, Eggman looks weird without his shades on. I am not a fan at all. Super Mario Bros. This 1988 title plays exactly like the Sonic game, with players taking turns controlling one normal-looking Mario as they try to make it through 4 worlds to rescue Peach. Players will place enemies and obstacles in each other's way to hamper progress, but the first player to reach the end and defeat Bowser wins. Moving in the game comes down to dice. You can either roll a number or color to advance, but if you roll stop or get hit by an enemy, your turn is up. One exception to this though is when you have 4 coins, as if you have 4, you can trade them in when your turn ends to keep going. There is no limit to the amount of coins that you can have, and there is no limit to the times you can trade them in on one turn. Can't get enough Mario? Well, try your hand at the Super Mario Bros. Blockbusting card game. I did it! Super Mario Bros. Blockbusting card game is very simple. When it's your turn, you jump on one of the 6 piles with your Mario or Luigi and draw the top card, which will either carry coins or a negative effect. The first player to reach the required number of coins wins. There is 1 ounce of gameplay in this that isn't just pick a random card. When you need to return coins or negative effects back to the pile, you choose which one those cards go to the bottom of. So memorizing the placement of these bad cards could help prevent you from drawing into them again. Other than that, completely random. But hey, who needs strategy when you're hanging out with all your favorite Mario pals? There's Mario, Luigi, Princess Toadstool, Bowser, Wart from Mario 2, Mauser from, like, the show? Boom Boom, specifically Little Goomba, Bullet William, Bo Bomb, and the Mushroom Retainer. Toad has lost name privileges. We only refer to him by his job title now. And I can see why. The Mushroom Retainer only has one effect. It forces you to keep the card, and as long as you have it, you can't win the game. That right there is the face of evil. Street Fighter 2 with extra large dimensional game board. What does that even mean? Whoa! Street Fighter 2 sees players move around the 3D game board in order to engage in battles to strengthen their character. With every bout won, your character gets stronger, and when you think you are strong enough, storm General M. Bison's fortress to defeat him and take the title of the greatest Street Fighter. This game isn't too complex. You pick your fighter and then move around the board trying to win fights by rolling higher than your opponent. The stronger you are, the more dice you can roll. A big reason why the board is so huge is because they want you to play the game with your Street Fighter action figures, sold separately. So this board also doubles as a playmat for kids as well. You know, one thing that I think most people have forgotten is just how massive Pac-Man was at its peak. 2 people wrote a song just about playing Pac-Man, and it topped at number 9 on the Billboard Hot 100. People were fiending for some Pac-tion. As such, there were a lot of video game board games based around the Pac-Man license, the most disturbing of which definitely being 1982's Pac-Man Game. Well, that looks like a pretty normal game to me. I mean, what's the matter? Whoa! You're a real nasty looking fella, you know that? Pac-Man Game sees players move their Pac creature through the maze collecting pellets and avoiding ghosts. Use the dice and your wits to choose the best path through and take the power pellets to fight back against the ghosts. The player with the most pellets at the end wins. As horrifying as the Pac demons are, they look that way for a reason. Because when you move the man, you can have him gobble up the pellets while you are moving, making it feel like he's actually moving like in the game. And while the game is simple, there's a twinge of competitive strategy, as you need to balance keeping your man safe from ghosts while trying to get your opponent with them so that you can take their pellets. Especially since if they eat a ghost with a power pellet, they can take pellets from you. Simple, entertaining, and fun. Everything a good video game board game should be. Now what about a game that is the opposite of that? Complicated, frustrating, and cruel. Ladies and gentlemen, Pokemon Master Trainer. Pokemon Master Trainer is the 1999 game that sees players travel through the Kanto region while trading, battling, and catching the various Mon on their quest to be the very best. Whoever can travel to the Indigo Plateau and defeat a member of the Elite Four first will become the new Pokemon Champion. Master Trainer has a lot of appeal for Pokemon fans, partially due to its depth, as it allows you to catch 150 of Kanto's finest creatures to add to your collection. On top of that, there are tons of items that will assist you on your travels, so the loop of catching and improving your Pokemon team will certainly become addicting as the game goes on. But where Pokemon Master Trainer gets its reputation is from its difficulty, as it contains some mechanics that make getting strong enough to take on the best quite rough. And on top of that, even your very best might not be good enough for those at the top. Some of the cards carry absolutely crazy effects, like the one that forces a trade with another player that they can't refuse. But where the game really ups the pain is in the end game, as in order for the game to finish, someone is going to need to beat one of the elite trainers awaiting you for the final battle. These guys are supposed to be the best of the best, and after getting your teeth kicked in battle after battle, you are going to know why. These guys are absurdly strong. In the JUGAR video covering the game, he determined that with some of the best Pokemon and some of the best bonus cards, with the best possible roll of 6, you are looking at a maximum battle power of around 23. But if you get screwed and draw Gary as the rival to beat, he only needs to roll a 2 or higher to beat your maximum possible score. Imagine a 10-year-old just banging their head against this impossible challenge, wondering why nothing is working. Poor guy is being tortured in real time. But regardless of the impossible challenge, being given the opportunity to go on a Pokemon adventure with your friends has led the game to have a cult following, which just goes to show that no matter how hard or unfair it is, as long as your game is fun, people will enjoy it. Man, what a sappy finale to the classic games. I can't end on that. But I've covered both modern and classic video games. What else could there possibly be to take inspiration from? Oh, hold on, I'm getting a call from my... That's it! Mobile game board games. What, you thought they didn't exist? Buddy, where there's money, the tie-ins will follow. Now, the executives have at least a smidgen of respect for themselves, as while there are a good amount of these products, they appear to have only made board game versions of good mobile games, so don't expect to see something like Shrek Twerk Battle Duel on here. Nevertheless, I would have never fathomed the idea of some of these apps as functional board games. So let's see how good of a job they did bringing the best games in your pocket out to the table. Angry Birds Knock on Wood. Knock on Wood sees players construct various structures that they will try to knock down by shooting their birds off the slingshot. Knocking down the tower will award a certain number of points based on the difficulty, and the player with the most points after a certain number of rounds wins. The Angry Birds game is probably the most accurate to the source material, as it has you physically shoot birds at structures to knock them down, so it is nearly a one-to-one translation from the game to the table. This one isn't going to win any awards, it's just build structure then destroy it over and over again, but hey, for what it is, it makes you feel like you're playing a competitive Angry Birds game. My biggest gripe with the game though is that the slingshot is one solid piece that operates more like a catapult, so on top of losing that Angry Birds pullback feel, it is really hard to shoot this thing with any amount of power and consistency. Chalk that up to a skill issue if you want though, I could just be mad 'cause bad. Candy Crush the board game. I've checked, you cannot spend 99 cents to try the game again if you lose. Addicts rejoice. Candy Crush the board game takes the red-hot action of trying to clear the board of candies, and tasks players to add a bunch of candy to their board. Wait a minute. Players roll dice to either add candy to their board to create a candy bridge, or add to their opponent's board to try to match 3 and clear their candy bridge. The first one to use their candies to reach the middle of the board wins. Aside from the whole turning the game's objective on its head thing, this bad boy claims to be a game of tactics and strategy. And while choosing when to attempt to sabotage your opponent's bridge could come with some strategic timing, most of the time you'll be relying on the luck of the dice to help you go straight for the middle. I think this review of the game from Third Strike sums it up best. The good? Presentation. The bad? Bland, slow, useless mechanics, overall feeling of a cash grab. To be fair, it is Candy Crush. They could have shaken you down for more. Disney's Where's My Water? Good lord, remember that game? In Disney's Where's My Water, players will build a drop puzzle where they will need to try to get water marbles past obstacles and into Swampy's bathtub. Players will get a bonus point for every yellow marble they hit along the way, but will lose a point for every toxic marble as well. Whoever has the most points when all the marbles are dropped wins a card, and whoever gets 3 cards first wins the game. It's really just Plinko with extra steps, but the Where's My Water game managed to do Plinko better than the official Price is Right game. I'm furious. This game has a good amount of replayability to it. It doesn't take very long to play, and you can always craft your own challenging levels to spice things up. Pretty solid stuff here, not too deep, and could be pretty fun to play, especially with kids. It even gives you some tips and tricks for the Where's My Perry app as well. Crank up that score, this one's going right to the top. Cut the rope. What you do in Cut the Rope is players will set up an obstacle layout based on cards, and attempt to collect as many stars as they can get and get the candy into Om Nom's mouth without hitting any hazards. Players will do this by using the slider to slide the candy across the table. The first player to get 18 points wins. Hey, I think we're missing a couple pieces, mainly the entire game's namesake. There's no cut here, there's no rope here, I doubt there's even any the. They splurged on transferring the notable cast and obstacles, but forgot to include the gosh dang title. Don't get me wrong, the game is fine and functional, but this is not Cut the Rope. This is Slide the Candy. I can understand why they did this. Making a board game that stays true to the fluid rope-cutting gameplay of the app is practically impossible. But if you're unable to feasibly make a Cut the Rope board game, don't try to make a Cut the Rope board game. But darn it, there's money to be made here, and we're not gonna let something as small as feasibility stand in the way of some big bucks. I don't care how many things need to be cut, make that Temple Run board game happen now. Temple Run Danger Chase. In this title, players will be frantically rolling dice in order to avoid obstacles and the demon monkey for as long as possible. Whoever is the last explorer standing wins. This game needs to do two things well in order to do the Temple Run name right. One, it needs to operate well as an endless runner, and two, it needs to catch the frantic pace that game has. And surprisingly, it manages to do them both. The chase can technically go on forever, as once everyone is off one board, it flips and moves to the front to keep the chase moving. While the game is endless by definition, the speed of the monkey ensures that sooner or later he will catch up to you. But you don't need to be faster than the monkey. You just need to be faster than your friends. This title also nails the frantic pace of the game thanks to the electronic turn timer idle, since if you don't finish rolling your dice and moving by the time it is up, you lose. Movement works with the 5 dice. You can roll these as many times as you want, but if they land on a skull, that die is locked. Once you accept the result, you must move your guy for every run icon and move the monkey for every skull. And I hope that you counted your spaces right, because if you land in a pit, then you lose. The game also comes with power-ups from the app, like Angel Wings that can save your life once, and Speed that can double your movement. And all of this comes together to create a very hectic experience similar to the app. Alright, Temple Run, great work there, proving that an endless runner can work as a board game. Now that we know it's possible, do we have any other members of the genre who would also like to give it a shot? Oh, pardon me, I didn't know the GOAT would be in attendance. Jetpack Joy Ride. This 2019 title is a real-time competitive puzzle game. Yep, that sure is a combination of words, where players compete to see who can make it through the lab first by forging a block path to avoid obstacles. The first player to make it through the lab ends the round, and whoever has the most points after the third round wins. The best way I can describe this game is bananagrams with a machine gun jetpack. In order to make it through the lab, you'll need to take the right tiles from the middle to chart your path. But everyone else has their own puzzle to solve and gets their tiles from the same place. So it is going to be a mad dash to see who can solve their unique puzzle not only the quickest, but while grabbing the most amount of coins and finishing the most missions. There's a catch-up mechanic too. At the end of each round, each player gets to pick one of 4 iconic gadgets from the game to add to their berry. And whoever got the least amount of points from the last round picks first. So selecting your gadget wisely could give you the boost you need to get back in the game. Jetpack Joy Ride may have dropped the Endless Runner gameplay from the original, but did it to double down on the hectic nature of the game, creating an experience that is extremely stressful but requires you to remain calm if you're gonna find the way through and beat your competitors. Incredible, 2 Endless Runner games putting out a great product in a row. You know, maybe this is just the right genre for board games. To make sure though, let's look at one more. Subway Surfers, the board game. This is not the right genre for board games. Subway Surfers, the board game, sees you try to dodge, jump, and roll past obstacles while collecting power-ups and coins. The player who collects the most coins when the obstacle deck runs dry is the winner. So this one is weird, as the original game was a reaction-based endless runner, and that has been transitioned into a slow-moving finite resource manager. what in the world are we doing here? The main game of Subway Surfers goes like this. On your turn, you can either use one of your cards to move or draw a track card to move the obstacles forward. And as the game progresses, more of the board will become crowded with obstacles that you will need to avoid. The problem is that in order for you to avoid obstacles, you will need to have the right movement card, which you draw at random. So no amount of preparation is going to save you from a run of unlucky draws. The power-ups from the game are here, and they all carry really cool effects. But what you are really going after are coins, because those determine who wins the game. Yes, you would think like in the Temple Run game, it would be last man standing, but no. When you are knocked out, on your next turn, you can spend 2 coins or 1 key to get back into the game, making this the first mobile game board game to incorporate the mechanic of spending money to continue playing. With how slow the obstacles move forward too, only moving 1 lane at a time, 1 card at a time, this game is not going to carry the fast-paced action that the app had, making this closer to a Subway paddleboard if anything. That's a nice bad game right there, but if we're gonna end this journey right, we need something real goofy looking. Something that just screams, now how did you come up with that one, while still being based around one of the most popular apps of the 2010s. And I've got just the product for that. Who's ready to run some Fruit Ninja? Those swords better be real. Fruit Ninja Slice of Life game pits 2 players against each other in a test of speed and memory, as when they receive their fruit mission, they will need to slice the correct fruit face up before their opponent can, while avoiding the bombs. First player to do it right wins the card. Whoever wins the set amount of cards is crowned the ultimate Fruit Ninja. This thing is a memory game, a speed game, and a hitting things with a blunt object game all rolled into one. It's everything you could ever want. Now, granted, you could simply use the sword to flip the fruit over to see what's underneath, but if you're not hitting it as hard as you can on the edge to flip it the cool way, then you have no place in this dojo. This is one massive gimmick, and it knows it. It's not trying to be some grand $300 fruit-based adventure spanning alternate universes looking for Sensei's killer. Take this sword, smack the table with it, and have some fun. And sometimes that's all a video game board game needs to be. And can we really say that something like the Fruit Ninja Slice of Life game is worse than, say, Slay the Spire, when they're clearly aiming to be different things? Well, I mean, yeah, but when they want me to spend $115 on a board game, buddy, it's ninja time. Signing off for a Mandarin Menace, I am KamSandwich. Thank you for watching and have a fantastic day. A special thank you to my suppliers, staff, and chefs over at the deli. If you'd like to join the crew, you can take a look using the link in the description below.